Our friends. So it is your friend in flowers, Lisa Mason Ziegler, dropping in here for our Wednesday Ask a Flower Farmer. And so what does that mean? That means that for the next 20 or 30 minutes, I will be answering any question you have that's related to growing cut flowers, starting seeds, cool flowers, which are cool season hardy annuals, flower farming business, harvesting, conditioning. Anything you got, I'll do my best to try to answer it for you. I don't always have the answers, but I will tell you if I don't know the answer instead of making one up. What do you think about that? So friends, I'll bring you up to date here. So I am in southeastern Virginia, and we are finally having cool temperatures here on the East Coast. And that's what just kind of makes it feel like it's holiday time for us here. It's time for, frosty ears and hot chocolate and being with friends and family. And it's just really a great time. But for me, that's what the rest of the world is doing. But then there's me, that's out here just turning away on getting my cool flowers put to bed. Cool Flowers, by the way, in case you don't know what that is, Cool Flowers is the name of a book that I wrote several years ago about a family of flowers that are known as cool season hardy annuals. And so they are flowers like bells of Ireland, sweet peas, snapdragons, poppies, and how you can figure out to grow them. And I should tell you this. So if you are in Instagram, there's a bubble down at the bottom of the screen with a question mark in it. That's where you put your questions so I don't lose them as the comments rush by. And if you're in TikTok, if you'll just put a question mark at the head of your comment and put your question, I'll go back and try to find those. So Cool Flowers is the name of that book. And here where I am in southeastern Virginia, I am USDA Zone 8A. And so I literally can almost plant almost all 40 or 50 of the cool season hardy annuals in the fall. And so we do a lot of planting in the fall for spring blooms, right? And so right now we are scurrying around, making sure all of our cool flowers are looking good and tucked in and just ready to go through winter and I live in a really windy site. So we get a lot of constant cold beating wind. Unfortunately, we do get snow, but not as much as some people. And snow is really an insulating blanket for cool season hardy annuals. So if you get snow, that's like the snuggliest thing that can happen for your cool season hardy annuals, right? I live where it's cold. Cold enough, at 20s, but it's blowing cold wind all the time. So that just beats up the transplants. And so we snuggle them down and tuck them in for winter. And then those will be our first blooms come spring. And they grow taller. We have more stems and they're more disease resistant because they're so well established from being planted in the fall. When they get rooted in, then they go dormant for winter. And it just makes for a really great recipe, y'all. So before we jump into some questions here, I'll bring y'all up to speed. So y'all know that you may not know, that I do a live gardening show a couple times a week. Tonight at 8 o'clock is one. And then we have another one on Friday at 12 noon. And those happen inside my phone app, which is free for you to get. You just go to your phone's app store and search Gardener's Workshop, and it's called the Shop app. We have two apps. They're both free, and you can download it to your phone, and that's where you'll find me tonight at 8 o'clock, and then on Friday at 12 noon. And it's really, we are demonstrating and showing what we're doing here on the farm and how we're doing it, like seed starting and the tools that we use out in the garden, and just kind of really all about what we do here on my farm. So I hope you'll join me 8 p.m. Eastern time tonight. inside the app, or Friday at 12 noon. And it's 2 different shows. And so you're invited to come. We have people that come to all the shows. And so I don't really ever say anything the same twice, even when I'm supposed to, unfortunately. So friends, I would really appreciate if you would hit that share button and let your friends know that you're actually here attending this live, and invite them to come on over. So let's see here. I'm starting a flower farming business for a Saturday flower stand. I'm growing a ton on my acre. I have about 6 of your sunflower seeds in my cart. How do sunflowers do at a flower stand? I'm in 8A. Sunflowers are a top cash crop, no matter what market you're selling in, whether you're making bouquets, selling to florists, selling at a farm stand, selling to supermarkets, going to farmers markets. Sunflowers, there's a reason for that. You know, we used to always, as flower farmers, I've been farming for 27 years, we used to always think that it was going to go out of style, but sunflowers have never done it, and particularly the way that we grow the sunflowers, which is we're looking to grow a 3 to 4 inch bloom. That is the perfect cut flower sunflower. And you know, people that leave them out in the field for photography or for birds or for oil or whatever, they want the bigger heads. That is not what makes a good cut flower. And so, yes, and I've told the story so many times that the first season that I learned about growing cut flowers and planting them every single week so that you have them to harvest every single week. And I learned that when I went to a conference in Oklahoma, to a farm, and they did that there, and that's where I learned about it. And I came back, and the next season, I literally paid for a $32,000 John Deere tractor and implements with 1 season of sunflowers. We were planting 1,200 a week, and just using them all. But of course, I'm an established flower farmer with a lot of customers, right? But yes, sunflowers are universal, and it's because they're so showy. They are so long lasting, and I'm going to turn y'all to look. I'm going to try to turn these to look. Look at, see those sunflowers behind me, that image right there? Those are all our pro cuts. That's actually an image that's from one of my books, and that's the Pro Cut series. And the perfect size sunflower, as I mentioned, is 3 to 4 inches wide, not that big stuff. And to grow pollenless, single stem varieties, that's why we grow the Pro Cuts. Pollenless makes them last a long time, and they do not drop pollen on your customers' tabletops. The variety of the colors in the Pro Cut, that's why I grow Pro Cuts. Not only do they have a wide range, I think it's 14 colors that you can select from. And I would recommend to you to get one. We mix them in-house, custom, and the Pro Cut mix, which has all the colors in it, is a great way to meet all the colors, right? And we grow single stem because, I don't know if you know this or not, folks, but you control the size of a sunflower head by the spacing in the garden. That's why you don't, not only do branching sunflowers not make good, long-lasting cut flowers, but you can't control the size of the head because you can't, because they're branchers. They aren't single stem. And then we plant them really tight together in the garden. And we plant, back when we were in high production, we planted 1,200 a week. But it just depends on what your demand is, and what you're doing as to how many. And, but I highly recommend, that's one of the things that I do every week with my flower farming club, is to actually, when we're in season, because we do something that's called early bird suns to get them as early as possible. We start that in the 1st of March. Every week we meet together for about 30 minutes. That's what I did right before this. And not sowing sunflowers yet, but I did sow some seeds today. And so in our weekly sunflowers, it's almost like it it makes me accountable to do it. And it also, that's what other people have done. It's like, all right, I'm going to the sowing circle and I'm going to sow my sunflower seeds and listen to what is going on and what I have to talk about. All right, so let's see what else we have. So sunflowers are very significant, and they are probably, well, they were in our top 10 cash, because I'll tell you, I would recommend this to everybody. The next time you go to the supermarket, just go over to the bouquets and look at the sunflowers that are in there so frequently, or at a florist shop, if you can go in and look at their, they have display coolers where they have arrangements. Most often, the sunflowers are about this big, the petals are not all the way open, and the necks and the stems are like this big around, and those are just horrible to work with. And that's why when you start growing sunflowers my way, of the way you space them and growing the varieties and planting them every week, you have to really kind of educate your customers and just really prove to them and show them. And how do you do that? By, especially if they're buying other flowers from you, but they're resisting your sunflowers, which mine did that till I turned them, is I would put 5 bunches of free samples every week in their order, until they finally called one day and said, oh my gosh, these are the longest lasting, most beautiful sunflowers. My staff said we're never buying that other stuff. And keep in mind, my sunflowers cost twice as much as what they were buying. So there is definitely a great market for that. How did dahlias do for you in 8A? I'm jumping in with 100 varieties and I'm so nervous. I hear it's extremely hard, yes. So I don't grow dahlias anymore. Dahlias, and if you are not, 100 varieties, that's kind of crazy. Most growers that are really growing grow maybe like 10 varieties at the most, because it just makes for craziness. And yes, I don't know how you'll grow dahlias in Texas without a pretty serious IPM, integrated pest management, setup. And that's why dahlias are just a little bit needier than what I wanted to deliver in time. And I learned that I can grow a lot of other flowers that sell just as well for a lot less work and a lot less investment. And so, yeah, dahlias are something you need to investigate with people in your region and to see what you do. Because, you don't have to dig them. Where you are. Well, a lot of people don't anymore. They've figured out that they actually, with the right spot and the right care through winter, you can leave them in the ground. All right, planted late, my cool flowers, zone 9. They're growing slowly, little seedlings. Well, let me tell you. Let me show you what I just did. We just sowed seeds. I just sowed seeds in these 2-inch soil blocks. In my sowing circle of a cool flower, Sorrenthe is what it is. We just kind of missed starting it this fall, and it's a flower we really, really love. And so, yeah, there's problems with planting late, and I'm going to have the same problems, but with a little TLC, is, first off, to hoop and cover them. To concentrate the warmth. I don't know if I think in zone 9, you get pretty chilly. You might not go deep. But still, plants need warmth, a little bit of warmth, to lay down roots and to grow a top, right? And so you might want to consider installing some hoops and row cover, just to concentrate the sunshine, to really get them rooted in well. But it'll work, just like when I plant these. So we just started those literally today. So let's see, what is this? December 3rd. They probably will not be ready to go out to the garden, I would guess, probably right after Christmas. And it's cold. We could even have snow on the ground, right? But the planting space is all ready. And I'll plant them. And we know that they won't die here because they're winter hardy. But can they survive with not being established? So you just have to kind of, whenever you plant late for cool flowers, which you really, It's so much easier to not be late. You haven't got to do all this extra stuff, but you just need to give some TLC. And that means making sure that your soil is moist. I don't know how, once it's cool, it just doesn't dry out very fast. So you may just water them in when you plant them. And then if it rains frequently, you really won't have to worry about that much anymore. And the hoops and row covers, that's like the cuddle, right? That's blocking any wind, but it's concentrating the sunshine, and just giving them the very best start that you can. But I too am actually doing that. Hello, Brittany. If you were designing a small garden for cutting, how would you design a border? Tallest stems in the back, short in the front. Are there certain plants that get too giant for small gardens? So, Brittany, you don't say, are you talking about a cool flower garden or a warm season? And so first off, for any garden for cutting, and I proved this year with a little experiment that went really south really fast. I am a firm believer that all cutting gardens should be a freestanding bed, not up against anything. So there should not be a back, is what I'm saying. We planted the little cutting garden that are the workhorses. It's called the Cut Flower Seed Collection, I think is the official name. And it's a 3x10 of the workhorses for warm season summer garden. And so we decided to plant it in front of, right up against, like a landscape bed, up against that beautiful little building that's on the front of Cool Flowers. So we planted that garden right here. See where this is landscape stuff back here. Here was a cutting garden out here, up against this really cute building. And at first it was not a problem. But as the season moved on and the sun that was blocked by that building and a multitude of other problems just let me know that it really should be a freestanding island. And so if you're doing a cutting garden, what I look at is, 3 foot wide bed. I would put the tallest at one end and then gradually go down. And if you're truly cutting it, meaning it getting cut clean, this is not a bed to look at for a landscape. I tend, because we grew up planting rows, which is very different than a landscape, right? You're not worried about, kidney bean shaped masses of a plant. You plant in rows. I just planted a cool flower demonstration bed here this fall that's like a 3x10 bed. And that's I put 10 different cool flowers in it. And it actually was just some of the leftovers that we had from the big garden is what that boiled down to. And I just put 2 rows across the bed of every variety. And just knowing that you're going to be cutting them and cutting them hard, as long as they're well supported and you truly cut it when you're supposed to and as deep as you're supposed to, they should do really well. And so for like the shortest stuff, like for instance, I planted billy balls at one end of the bed, and at the other end, the opposite is where the feverfew is. Feverfew is pretty ferocious, right? It gets big and it can bully, and I actually skipped a space. I don't normally do that, but I thought you're going to be so sorry that I didn't do this. And so billy balls is just these spindly stems with this yellow ball on top, right? And so they're on the end, and then I gradually got taller and taller as it went down. So I hope that helps you. Oh, hit the wrong thing. So will they survive is her question about that she planted her cool flowers in zone 9. First off, all cool season hardy annuals, to my knowledge, will survive winter in zone 9. 9 is south. I would guess that is deep Georgia, or Texas, or in Florida, or along the coast in Louisiana or somewhere. All the cool season hardy annuals. In my book, the Cut Flower Handbook, we list there's 41 different cool season hardy annuals in here. and there's a cheat sheet on page 62 and 63. This lists all the cool season hardy annuals that are in here. And right over here on the last column, all of this, it tells you the lowest winter temperature that they'll survive. And it is as simple as you learning via the internet what is for your zip code the lowest winter average temperature. And if you go down to 22 degrees, I can promise you can pretty much plant every cool season hardy annual in there in the fall. So I would not be worried about your stuff getting winter killed. What will kill them is to not be established, to just be stuck in the ground and planted late, and then no support. And so it's not established before it goes dormant. So if you do have bad luck this year, plan on time next year, and I think you'll be really, really pleased with that. All right. Let me look over here. Oh, thank you. Sky Flower Field said all of my books are great. Lisa, oh, you're the best. I loved your flower farm workshop. Thank you so much. What seed did I just plant? Cerinthy. And Cerinthy is beautiful, y'all. That's why I decided, normally I'd say, oh, well, we skipped it, you know. I forget what page it was on. I was just looking that up in my, here. This is Cerinthy. Look how beautiful that stuff is. Really, really pretty. And it's one of the first flowers to bloom when it's fall planted in my garden. It blooms right alongside the Iceland poppies and the bachelor buttons, which are early birds also. So yeah, Cerinthy is just one of my favorites. And I really learned about that. That was one of the flowers, you know, y'all, it is surprising to me how little information has been out there to tell us what is a cool season hardy annual versus a warm season. So a warm season tender annual is like zinnias, tomatoes, basil, stuff that loves it hot, grows great in our summers, and then when frost comes, it kills them, right? Petunias and impatiens and all that stuff. Cool season hardy annuals are plants that don't just survive cool temperatures, they thrive. That's their jam. That's why we haven't been able to successfully grow them, because we've all been planting them at the wrong time. When I did the research for cool flowers, I had the hardest time. Most of the books that I was able to go back and read, have information, were pre-1950 books. Our grandmas and our great-grandmas knew all about cool season hardy annuals. But I think when that disconnect happened in the 60s and 70s and 80s, where people kind of went away from gardening for a while, it was like, I know for my parents, it was like, all right, we've made it. We no longer have to have a vegetable garden in our backyard. We can buy vegetables at the grocery store. During that era, we lost connection with gardening, and that family of flowers, cool season hardy annuals, and there are vegetables that fall under this category, have such an awkward planting time. We can't believe it's true to do it. I'm telling you, nobody knows that better than me. I traveled all across this country doing lectures. And when I used to lecture about cool season hardy annuals and how I've been planting them in the fall and very early spring, and you get more stems, taller stems, better stems, like nobody's tomorrow. I mean, people said all kinds of things. Like, there's no way that's true. Like, you know, literally kind of like telling me I'm not being truthful to them. Our grandmas did this. Our great-grandmas did it, right? And so figuring that out, if you are not familiar with what I'm talking about, the place you need to start is with my book, Cool Flowers. This little book, which you can read in a weekend, will explain the concept and how you figure out what grows or when you plant cool season hardy annuals for your garden, because it makes all the difference in the world, y'all. All right. Looking for some flowers that will help my bouquet stand out at farmer's market. Any suggestions? I'm going to give you the simplest, and easiest answer to this question that you can rule the flower farming world with if you make it so. And this is after farming for a long time, teaching for a long time, and visiting, and also every day on social media, seeing the opposite of what I'm getting ready to tell you. If you just grow any flower that's a cut flower and grow a quality, harvested on time, at the proper stage flowers and sell them at the proper time, you will be leagues above everybody else. We see constantly, pictures of farmers market stands, roadside stands, all of that. And I've seen them in person, people selling old flowers, and it really destroys the customers that buy them, because they buy them once and it's like, oh gosh, these didn't last but a few days. Really learning your craft. We have so many, what we say to people is, there are not too many professional flower farmers out there. There's a lot of people piddling in flower farming that really have no depth of knowledge. You have to know the stage to harvest every single flower that you grow. All of that information is right here in this book. Not only does it tell you what varieties to grow, when to cut it, where to make the cut, the stage to cut it, because that's what sets you apart. I mean, we have so many fly-by-night situations, and it's people that really just have no idea when to cut a snapdragon. And I'm looking at one. I'm going to show it to you. So this is the last harvest from my garden. I went out I think Friday night is when we went below 30 degrees, and I knew I have snaps blooming in my garden. These are beautiful, right? Look how pretty they are. These are too old. You would never sell them at this stage, y'all. See how all these florets are open? And friends, I'm here to tell you that the proper stage to cut a snapdragon is when the first bottom flower is developed like this. The rest of them are just in buds. And people have such a hard time with that. And I think because I started my business out selling to high-end florists when I started 27 years ago, it just happened that I started selling to the most high-end florist in town. And then I sold to Colonial Williamsburg for 15 years. Both of them very high-level bar. I just became a stellar harvester and conditioner. And that's what set me apart. And guess what I built my business on? Zinnias, sunflowers, coxcomb, simple flowers. And then a lot of other secondary annuals, but I don't grow any ranunculus, any anemones, no dahlias. I just never needed to. Those are high investment crops. And that's what I set myself apart with. So if you want to set yourself apart, woods edge blooms, learn the harvest stage, grow quality flowers, cut them at the right time and condition them, and then sell them. Do not sit on old flowers. And that's a whole nother conversation. But another problem I really see is that people think they're going to have a once a week outlet for their flowers. Let's just say a farmer's market on Saturdays. And that's the only outlet you have. Well, that means you should technically be cutting your garden twice a week. We cut on Mondays and Thursdays. You should be cutting that garden on Monday. You're not sitting on those flowers for your Saturday market. They're old by the time you're selling them. You need to find a complementary outlet for those, or you need to dump them. And that's because what happens is people figure it out really fast. You know, they just kind of stop buying them. They just don't last as long. They aren't as vibrant. They aren't as beautiful because they're on the way down when they're actually getting them. So growing quality, growing and cutting and conditioning, and all of that is in the book. So there's no reason that anybody can't grow quality flowers, and it will make you a darn standout. I mean, for sure. Oh, thank you, Kristen, for asking that. The calendars, we sent out an email. If you happen to be a pre-orderer of our calendar, our printers reached out to us 2 days ago. 2 days ago. And they've pushed back the date. We are getting them the week of Christmas, and we anticipate that they will be in your hands the first week in January. And so if you have pre-ordered, you should find an email that has all the details in there. And pre-orders are still open because when you pre-order, you get the bonus live workshop that'll all be announced just as soon as we have the tracking ticket in our midst. That'll all start happening, but all that information is in the email, and that's where it stands right now. And I just absolutely cannot wait, y'all, for all of this to happen. So if you don't know about the big calendar journal, I have built my flower farming business on this big giant calendar that I created for myself and used it for the last 15 years. Well, we have now had it produced. And it includes my instructions and guide on how to apply the 9 different planting windows to your garden and see which ones apply and how to mark up your calendar. And then when you have your planting dates, that means you can figure out your seed starting dates, because we also include a seed starting worksheet that has the information that you need to actually count back and create your seed starting schedule. And you don't want to, it's $39.95. It is the bargain of a lifetime, plus shipping and handling. But that's where we are, Kristen. And thank you so much, because actually that was on my list. Jesse had already asked me to announce that to folks. So thank you for asking. You're so very welcome. All right, y'all. So let's see if we have any over here. All right, my friends, it is actually time for us to wrap up. Thank you so much for being here. And remember, tonight, 8 o'clock, live gardening show right here inside my shop app. And you can get that free over on your app store. And tonight, I'm going over my seed starting method that I love so much, because it's just around the corner, y'all. Till we meet again, my friends. Ciao.